Hi, I'm Dr. Kyla, paediatric dietitian, fussy eating specialist and mum of two. I'm the founder of the online mealtimes memberships that help parents just like you experience a confident and guilt-free way of feeding children. I'm also a business owner, a hot cross bun lover, and my superpower is finding things that you cannot live without. In this podcast, I'm talking about feeding your family, along with a random selection of topics that tickle my fancy. Welcome to Mealtimes with Dr. Kyla. All right. Okay. So today's guest is my friend and colleague, Nicole Pates from Western Kids Health. She's also the host of the Baby Banter podcast and perhaps best known as Nicole Kids Physio on Instagram. Nick and I have worked together for years now. So she set up her first clinic in Perth at a time when I was running my home visiting fussy eating service, and that was just getting too big for me to travel around. And so I actually worked out of Nicole's clinic for a number of years, which is where we kind of established our friendship. And the places, like the space that Nick creates in her work for both health professionals to work in and for families to attend for allied health care is incredible. Like, I cannot tell you about these spaces in enough detail. Like, I want you to go and stalk Nick's Instagram and the Western Kids Health Instagram, but they're spaces that kids want to go to, and the therapy that they offer is first class. Like, this is my standard referral for families to go and see an allied health professional. In more recent times as well, they've set up the Western Kids Health feeding team, which we might touch on, which has actually evolved from my own service and has been something that we've worked collaboratively to create, and something that I'm still involved in mentoring with. This is a very long intro and poor Nick's just sitting there waiting, but she and I are now good friends, and we catch up with two other business owners really regularly for dinner and wine and chats about the highs and lows of running a business. And I think we'll talk about that. But anyway, that's how I know Nick, and it's my pleasure to welcome her to the podcast.
Hi, I'm so honoured to be here. It's just, I said to you before that I'm incredibly nervous. It's
and
different
as
when
I
you're
said,
hosting the podcast and you're
I am a hard-hitting interviewer. I am like here to ask all the hard questions.
Hey, I go to dinner with you about business stuff. I know the hard-hitting questions, the reflections, it's amazing. You're amazing. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Now we are going to start with the entree. So with each of my guests, I'm really interested to hear about your experience of mealtimes as a kid. So tell me about mealtimes in your household. I know you grew up in the country. Do you think that had a role on your mealtimes as well?
Yeah. So I don't know if I've told you, Carla, but my dad was a professional fisherman. So he fished all the time, and we ate a lot of fish, jewfish, snapper, shark, like all the good stuff, which I'm now only really appreciating that it was such good fish. And my husband jokes that is the only reason why I'm quite clever, because apparently fish helps your brain grow.
I was just going to say that explains your smarts, Nick.
Well, because I didn't eat much else. So basically we had really simple meals as a kid growing up, and we rotated through chops, sausages and fish, and then roast or mashed potatoes with peas and carrots. So it was pretty basic as a family, which I can talk about a little bit later. But Friday nights was like the fend for yourself night, because all the neighbours would come around. So it was basically like nibbles for dinner. And then
nibbles for dinner is one of my favourite childhood memories, though. Friday night nibbles for dinner with the family friends is just like,
and like the craziness of it all. It was pretty basic growing up, and dinner, like, it was really regular. So really regular every night. Like 6 o'clock news would come on. So, like I'd watch ABC till 6 p.m. or whatever it was. And then
Roger Ramjet.
Yeah, and then 6 o'clock, well, in the country it was like that. Don't you open the trap door, you're a fool. And so like that would finish, the news would come on, mum would serve dinner, and dad would watch the news, and mum would read a book. And my sisters are much older. So by the time I was like 7, they were one had moved out of home, and one was finishing like towards the end of high school. So dinners were really quiet but together. So like I just kind of like pushed around my lumpy mashed potatoes.
Were you a adventurous eater as a kid, or were you did like the predictable same foods work for you?
So my grandma was a shocking. Well, she wasn't known for her cooking. And actually, I think I got maybe 2 or 3 bouts of food poisoning after eating her house. And like, she didn't even have a proper oven. It was like one of those, you know, those like metal hearth ovens that you had to chop wood in, like How to Hansel and Gretel, like the witch. Anyway, but you know, so she wasn't a very good cook, God rest her soul. And mum wasn't, as a product of that, a very good cook. And I think that's where mum has like a basic food eating. So she still eats to this day sausages, chicken, fish, mashed potato or roast potato from like, and then packaged stuff, but nothing else like. And so like the vegetables always came out of the packet, like, and heated in the microwave. And like, so mum was self-taught, but I've obviously inherited the lack of kitchen nous and cooking skills, probably from lack of exposure.
I feel like that's part of your identity now, though. You can't branch out from that.
And it's really hard. So I remember mum and dad went out for dinner. When you were like sent me through some, I was like, oh, what can I remember? Mum and dad went out for dinner when I was 16, and they're like, are you going to be okay? And I was like, yeah. They're like, got this. Like, I can do anything. Maybe I was 15. And I nearly burnt the house down because I didn't realize 2 things. So one, you had to add water to the rice when you put it in the rice cooker in the microwave. And so like, I was like, what's that smell? Like 3 minutes in, and it was like a hole in the bottom of the fire. I was like, but you know, not one to give up. I was like, oh, try again. But then I didn't realize you couldn't put fork in the microwave. My mum and dad would come home like the house blowing out the microwave. I'm so sorry. I'm really hungry. Did you bring me anything?
But like you said, you could fend for yourself.
I tried really hard. So yeah, that was just really, I'm just not a very good cook. So that was my growing up. Oh, yeah, that was my growing up experience.
What about now as a parent? What's your experience of mealtimes as a parent? Or since you've met your husband as well, who is much more of a cook, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So yeah, my husband, that probably does play into my childhood experience. I've forgotten about my lovely husband. So Ben, my husband now, we're older now. So what are we, 35? We actually met going into year 8. So like at the uniform shop before you started high school. And I was like, oh, blow me down. But we hit it off. Sorry, getting blushing memories. We hit it off immediately and became best friends. So we kind of had like maybe a month dating period in year 8, and then it was a bit too serious, so we just decided to be friends, and we were best friends. And now I think about it, I'm like, oh gosh, but like I would go around to his house probably towards the end of year 8, start of year 9 for dinner. And the first time I went to his house for dinner, he's a twin and his older sister's only like a couple of years older than him, and I just remember being like overwhelmed by the noise at the dinner table. So like look good, but loud. And I was so scared of his parents, and they put this food on the table and I was like, what is this stuff? And I was like, I had no idea. And you know, you don't want to offend people by not eating them. So
what was it?
What is it? And they're like, oh, it's a curry. And I was like, oh, like I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe I lived in an ignorant world in a, egocentric.
Well, if you didn't eat curry before then, we weren't going out, were we?
And like, I probably was exposed to foods that I hadn't thought about, but only because like at family functions, but I avoided them because I was like, I don't know what they are. So I just won't eat it. I'll just eat the sausages. Anyway, so I was like, curry. And I was like, oh, curry. Okay. And they were looking at me and like, when like everyone's watching when you take the first bite, and I think I nearly exploded. And I remember like trying not to laugh. I drank like the whole milk bottle, and they're one of those families that don't drink much milk, and so like it was all that was left in the fridge. And they were like, have you never had this before? And I was like, oh no. And so I think I avoided going there for dinner for like weeks. And he's like, please come back round. And we had a roast. He's like, it's a roast. So I can do that. I can do a roast. We do a roast every Sunday. I know what to expect. But my God, cauliflower cheese, that opened like a whole new world for me. I didn't even know that existed. And I was like, what is this creamy cheese?
They were like, oh, we're introducing Nicole to new vegetables, to cheese.
I And so that was like then the joke. And that's how I learned vegetables was there. But then also at my job at the supermarket scanning the vegetables in, I was like, what's this? And they're like, oh, it's a cucumber. And there's a amount of zucchinis I put through. Anyway.
It was confusing back then. You had the burpless cucumbers and the regular cucumbers.
And like it wasn't even like the cool touch screens. Like you had to remember the like PIN codes for vegetables. But yeah, so my little young experience was very like regular foods, and then meeting Ben was like my exposure to new foods, which was a bit of a scary journey, but you couldn't really offend. So it was like it was tricky, but it was fun. It was fun.
And how does that influence now feeding your own kids? Because you've got 2 kids, what, 7 and 3?
3, yeah. So Claire's 3.5. Actually, she's probably closest to 4 now.
Yeah.
Scares the life out of me. And Will's 7.5 on his way to 8. So they're actually getting really old. How does it affect my journey now with my kids and how we do? Well, I'm a really terrible cook. And when I was a stay-at-home parent, so about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I was the primary caregiver, and I probably was for the majority of Will's life and like half of Claire's life so far almost. And it was really stressful cooking like dinner every night. It's really hard, and I just can't like understand a recipe. It feels really foreign, and like the timing of getting things to cook at the same time and be ready, and so things are always cold. And anyway, yeah, it's just a lot. And knowing what the ingredients, there's multiple things for the same name. So like I made an apple crumble and Ben like spat it out and was wiping his tongue, and I was like, what's wrong? And he's like, well, there's breadcrumbs for apple crumble, and then there's breadcrumbs that you batter fish in, and you've used the wrong ones. So like I put batter crumble, whatever it is, all over the
breadcrumbs don't go in crumble anyway. I feel like somebody sold you down the river with that one.
So I'm like Googling, like, I don't know what's right and wrong. And I thought I would buy a Thermomix to solve all my problems. That didn't help either. And I remember that this is like the epitome of my like cooking is, well, we should probably talk about the leek saga, but when Will was little, like we were quite all sick, like virus times. His mum had made, Ben's mum had made like a shepherd's pie and put it in the freezer. And like I got it out and like heated up, and Will came to the table and he's like, oh my God, Mum, this is the best thing you have ever made. Like, I don't know what you did, but it's so good. Like, can you do this more often? And I was like, this is grandma's food reheated, mate. And he's like, oh. And even as like a 5-year-old, he like knew to backpedal. I was like, I don't know. So
it sounds like something to outsource, my friend.
Yeah, well, so I rotated through the same basic sausages, chops, fish, and vegetables. But I did make chop the carrots and stuff myself. And actually, Will and I grew lots of veggies in our tiny vegetable patch at home, and we grew corn, and we had like 1 or 2 corn ears. Like we would grow things. We wouldn't get very much, but it was almost like a thing we would do together to be outside and grow and then eat it. So that was really nice. A year and a half ago, Ben and I swapped. So he became the stay-at-home parent. And at first, like we ate gourmet for like 3 months because he was like,
I'll show you how it's done.
He is. We always joke that him and his twins should go on My Kitchen Rules because they would like that he's adverse to social media and reality TV. But then he realized the absolute grind of parenthood and went back to like not a bit more repertoire than what I have, but back to like rotating things. And Claire's 3, so lots of it is beige. Yeah,
love it. What does a typical family meal look like in your house? Is it as loud as Ben's family when they were younger, or is it more subdued like your family?
It's like we're all present, so we try and have like a no phone rule at dinner, and especially at dinner, so that we're there. Sometimes we FaceTime like our family into dinner, so it can get a bit loud, like the cousins or grandmas or nanas, or just like to mix up dinner time. Sometimes when you've had a little bit, maybe too much of parenting that day. But
we do a lot of FaceTimes to Melbourne nanny.
And like the kids love it. But so we probably, when I get home from work and Ben either tracks me on the Find Your Family app, or I text him that I'm away, and he can I don't know how he does that. He times dinner. So like I'm home and it's on the I'm like, how do you do this? It's magic. Yeah, and we always talk about, like, it's probably not as loud, but they're younger still, so I don't know. But it's not, we don't ever really talk about the food. It's always like what good has happened in your day, or like what's something that was a bit tricky, or like what's something kind you did today. So we kind of try and like focus it around the day. And Claire's like makes stuff up because she's 3, and she's like, I went to do this, and we're like all looking at each other like, really? Did you? You visited the Queen? That sounds cool.
Yeah.
She's got a great imagination. But yeah, so it's not as loud, but it's more present, and it's very, like, I don't know, still like I find it hard, the expectation around sitting at the dinner table, because like I'm the one who, like, you know how you're the one getting up to get the water, like, and they want this, and you have to get a different sauce, and then they've got the wrong fork, and like, you know, you're trying to like, yeah, okay, but then like by the time I sit down, they've finished, and we're like, we kind of have to stay at the table for everyone to finish eating, and like that expectation of trying to eat together, but then trying not to over expect too much of them being so young. So we managed to most of the time sit together until we've all finished, if I can eat fast.
Yeah.
But then Ben and I usually sit at the table longer, and the kids go off and do stuff, and we like have a debrief about the day too. So that's good.
What time do you generally eat dinner?
Usually between 5:30 and 6:30.
Early dinner for you.
Yeah, and I think because Ben is like stay at home now, that he finds that works. Sometimes it's a bit later. So, but most of the time, like the kids, like if I'm trying to lead the cooking, like they'll be falling asleep at the table, and we'll like they're like, you're hungry, and like
everyone's whinging.
Carrots from the fridge, and yeah, it's a bit tricky, but we get there.
Do you guys plan your menu in advance, or does Ben decide on the day?
So Ben is one of those amazing people. Maybe it's just regular people. Maybe I'm not, like, but he can look in the fridge and like see like meals from the stuff. I don't know how. So he tries to like base it off what's currently in the fridge or the freezer. Whereas like if I'm cooking, I have to like be like, I have to go out and buy all these things, and then we end up with like 8 of the same sauce, because I didn't know that we were like bamboo shoots, whatever it is, like that we've already got. So he kind of, I think he has like a rotating plan in his head, but he doesn't have to write it. Like he's actually really, and like he doesn't have recipes, and he just like take to measure. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm never going to live up to this expectation. So you can just run with it. When he was like 17 and we were really hungover from a party once, like I thought I would get up and make him bacon and eggs, like really kind. And I think they were the driest, like crunchiest, and he was like, oh my god, thank you. And then he took a bite, and he's like, spat it out, and he's like, I'm sorry, but I just can't eat this.
He's like, I'm dehydrated already. I don't need you to give me some like dry cardboard eggs.
Years of therapy to get that. Like I just try, but
that's gold. What is your family's favorite dinner, and why do you think that meal in particular is such a winner?
The kids love spaghetti. I think I'm going to die if I see another bowl of spaghetti. But
do you have it with sauce?
Yeah, and Ben like makes it all from scratch. So, and like we do it, so we like make a big part sauce, like with the meat and stuff, and bag it and freeze it flat. Like, and the kids just love it with the pasta. Claire will eat mostly just the pasta. But we will eat it all, and like every love girl loves spaghetti basically. I'm not a huge fan at the moment, so we're trying to be doing a little bit broader, but I would say the kids love anything that's like a serve yourself from the middle, so like burritos or wraps or different things like that. So like when they're in kind of control of what they're putting in, and like it just reduces everyone's anxiety a lot around like, not like that they won't eat, but you know, like if the sauce touches the wrong thing, and then you have to wipe the plate, so that like it's maintaining that like calm feeling, because dinner's at the end of the day and often things are a bit but they love the serving themselves meals, so we're trying to do more of those.
I feel you. Can I just clarify, Ben's not making pasta from scratch though, is he?
Sometimes.
Oh my god.
I know, but you know, like sometimes I think he realizes he's over ambitious, and then I just laugh at myself.
We've all
like,
been there.
Yeah. So he tried to be the fun parent and do a slime bath once, and that was disaster. But no, he likes to, if we've got time and no plans, him and Will like do the whole like make pasta and put it through and we'll do like, I don't know, is it fettuccine, the long flat ones?
Yeah.
Anyway, or like one day we even made ravioli, but kind of like it gets to the point where everyone's a bit like, but then pushes through. But most
This
of the
is
time,
memory making.
oh yeah, not for the right reasons. No, but yeah, Ben loves it. So and like we watch so much. Like if we're watching TV together as a family, it is like YouTube cooking.
Yeah, wow. You must love that,
Yeah.
Nick.
It's so great. I feel so inspired. It has helped me like learn how to chop an onion, which is good.
My husband had to teach me how to chop an onion. He was appalled by my knife skills when we first met.
I'm a little bit stubborn, so poor Ben would love to teach me, but I get quite
Same.
not teachable.
What is the one food that your kids won't eat despite you offering it regularly?
Claire, crust on bread, and Will spicy food, like me. So like he just he will try, like he tries most things, but he's just like and like I just even like the smallest amount of kick, and we're both like eye-watering milk. But so he just like wipes the sauce off the chicken now, and he like nibbles it anyway. But yeah, spicy food for Will.
How funny. Is there anything you guys find challenging about food and meal times other than the actual like cooking, preparing every day kind of thing?
Oh yeah. When Will was little, you weren't like we'd only kind of that was like 7 years ago, and we kind of just met like face to face. Instagram wasn't really a thing, and he liked food, like he did like, and he went through that baby phase where they eat anything, but then when he hit the toddler period, it became super stressful from the like he wouldn't eat, or he would not eat at all, or like and Ben and I were both like super, I guess, like our experience, Ben's mealtime experience was always like finish your plate. So Ben and I argue about that a lot because I never finish. I'm one of those people that leaves a little bit on my plate. Just I don't know why, but it's probably the mashed potatoes coming back to me. Yeah, he would finish. So he would get really frustrated if we didn't finish when like it was a sign of disrespect. And so it was really stressful. And like, we had the like lining up of Smarties and the like, you need to eat 5 mouthfuls, and the like, you can't have this if you don't. And like, it was really stressful.
I actually remember discussing that with you early on, and both of you actually saying that you didn't like the feeling of it, but you didn't know. It wasn't like you could suggest another way, or that Ben felt confident that you could do it without a reward. I remember that.
Yeah, and like I think partly that's not I don't even know if it's his experience growing up, but like it's the first time you're parenting, and I think it came back to more that we didn't want to feel like we didn't want to fail Will, and like eating is a sign of like if they eat it's a sign of success and all of those different things, and we didn't really know another way. And then like obviously we've had lots of conversations, but it was really hard for me, like because I'm a health professional and I work with kids. You know how I said I don't let Ben teach me to cook because I'm stubborn? It's almost like I can't give any health professional advice to Ben because like vice versa. It's not an ego thing. It's just sometimes it's better coming from someone else. So I think once Claire was born and with the lockdowns and all of those, and then like her journey was so different with reflux, and she was really adverse to that first part of introducing solids and feeding, what some people call weaning. I don't know why. It's not how I think of it. Yeah, she was kind of really like, it was stressful in a different way. And so we both did our own research as such. And like, that's when things really started to shift at the dinner table, because we were trying to help Claire, but in it also helped Will, and it helped us too. So now like we barely talk about what's on their plate or what's on their food, other than like we might say, I'm trying to make a rainbow with our own food.
Yeah.
Or like, whatever, we're talking about like what we like about the food, but not them. But like that pressure has totally shifted off. So like the pressure is not now around by how much they eat, all the things that you talk about. But yeah, it took a while to get there. and it's pretty hard at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting though, and it's probably not dissimilar to what you do, but like when you face a challenge in parenting, I mean, or in life, I feel like there's this thought in all of us, like, I need to try harder. Like, I need to make this happen. I need to fix this thing.
The fixing, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And it's like, actually, in this space with food and meal times, often we don't actually need to make it more of a deal. It's actually about taking the pressure off all of us. But it can be really hard to accept that that is a reasonable solution, isn't it? Especially, you know, as a first-time parent, it's like, right, you got to make this work.
And like, I think also as a first-time parent, like I was trying to figure out my, I guess, like mum way, like how I wanted to parent. And Ben was trying to figure out his way. But then we're also dealing with like our own stuff and our own like workplaces or social circles or shifts and stuff. And it's just, like, it's a lot. Like, like when you become a parent, like everything shifts. Even if you don't, like, you can say as much as you want, you don't want it to, but it does. And I think that validating that we were both trying to just figure it out and that no one had to be right.
Yeah.
But yeah, the for trying to find a right way or to fix things, like, just leads to just stress and discomfort and, you know, arguments, because actually there's not really a right way. Like, it depends on your values and your families and all of those things. So like once we got to that stage and we figured out what best worked for us, like it was a lot easier. I don't know.
And I do think there's a challenge with food in particular, because we are all brought up, or we all eat food, and we all have these ideas about food and nutrition from different parts of our life, often, you know, 30 years of ingrained belief around that. So it can also bring up, and parenting in the same way, it brings up a lot of stuff for us as parents ourselves, right? Like, why do I believe this thing about food? Or why do I think that you need to eat all of your dinner? Or why do I think, you know, anything really? And it takes a lot of conscious reflection, doesn't it? And, you know, undoing sometimes.
Yeah, and that's really like, and you even got to have like the mental capacity to do that.
Yeah.
And there were parts of parenting early on that, like, I didn't have the mental capacity to do that at all. Like, I barely made it to 6 o'clock. Yeah. So like, I kind of sometimes beat myself up about those periods, but I shouldn't, because, you know, you can only do the best with what you know at that time.
Absolutely. And I think you also like, I hate the word journey, but it is a journey, right? Like, if you think about things you believed early on, they've probably shifted quite considerably in your, you know, even from week 1 to like 6 months, from 6 months to 6 years, like those things can evolve, and they don't always have to be, as you said, like right or perfect, and they can keep evolving, and actually no damage done. Like, we've decided on a new way of doing this now, and that's like how we're going to do it for the moment until it doesn't work for us anymore, and then we recalibrate again if and when we need to.
Yeah.
So I think applies to all parts of it, right?
Yeah. It's just life.
Yeah.
I think maybe, I don't know.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Thank you. All right. I'm making her emotional. Now I'm going to get into the good stuff, the dessert.
Yeah,
so
more emotional.
This is the bit was the thing I'm most interested to hear Nicole talk about, because I haven't really had a chance to discuss a lot of this with her. So we've worked together for many years and faced, I would say, very similar struggles as parents, and on top of that as business owners. And it's something that we chat or debrief or whinge or problem solve maybe at times at our regular dinner catch-ups. And I think one of the biggest challenges both of us find is blending all the parts of our life. So the mum part, the wife part, the boss part, the therapist part, you know, and it's not always, well, I wouldn't say it's ever easy, let alone not always easy. And in recent times, Nick, you've transitioned to working full-time in the business, which has kind of created a change for you and for your family. And I'm interested in like what you have learned in that process, kind of going from the stay-at-home parent to the full-time working parent, and what's that kind of taught you?
Yeah, I have worked a little bit through this because I think probably not even just this year that I've been full time, but for a lot of the time, even back working before, like working for myself or owning a clinic, like back working in the hospital and different things, like I really, when I do something, I want to give it my all. I want to help kids, like that's why I do what I do. But I would always find that if I focused on my work, like the home stuff would lose out. And like I never felt like I could be successful at both. And they couldn't have it all, like it was an all or nothing mentality and like really high expectations of myself and what I was going to achieve in both of those things. And like, as soon as you start going well at work, if Will goes through a normal developmental trajectory where his behavior shifts, I would blame it that I was more present at work, like rather than seeing the whole picture. And so like that was really hard to work through. And then when we made the change last year, it was for so many reasons. So like Ben and I talked about the other day, like the list of reasons why we made the change and the decisions went into the change, like for our own mental well-beings, both of us, like our home life, like our relationships, like we get more time together as a family, let alone like the positive impact that my work has on other people. Like that was also a big part of it. Yeah, but I didn't really want to work full time. But like if I do that, it helps so many, not just families, but also the health professionals that we work with, because we've so focused on building everybody up. I said to someone yesterday, like, I want to be the worst physio on the team. Like, that's my goal. And he was like, what? Why? I was like, because that means everyone's better. But it's a weird goal to have. But like, even with all of that, there's just like this teeny, probably not teeny tiny, probably like a large bit of me that I just keep covering up that feels like I've let the kids down, and that sometimes I've like failed them as a mother because I'm not there. And it's like, when they're like begging me not to go to work because they're like holding on to my leg, like, please just stay and play longer. And I'm like, ah. And so, you just sometimes feel like I just can't, it's illogical, it's not rational. And like, I know that we do so many fun things together, but I just like it's that concept of the perfect mother myth that like, I don't know, people are like, gotta let it go, but it's really hard to consciously. And so just, I think, have to try and keep reflecting and doing stuff. But yeah, the constant feeling like I'm failing one of them. Now I can't stop crying. So,
do you think it's actually different though, the amount that you work? Because I would say I have that experience working part-time. I've had that experience when I've not been working on like purely on maternity leave. If I've worked more, I don't know that it is actually proportional.
I know, and I don't know. Yeah,
like I have that feeling going out for dinner.
It hits harder because like Ben is fantastic. He honestly like handles the mental load of the cooking and the cleaning and the school stuff. Like I'm not in the school relationship. So like if Will has like a falling out with a friend, like I feel failure because I don't know the context, or like I can't help, or I missed the basketball. Like I took him to basketball and no one was there because it had finished and I didn't know. And like, so there's like these little things that like, he's like, oh, like come on. And I'm like, oh, like stuffing up here. Or like at the start of this year, I was like, oh, Ben, I've got the class list. Like I'll do that one thing. I'll, reduce your load. I'll try and really helpful. And I bought pre-primary stuff instead of year one. And so like he's gone to school with all the wrong stuff and like was super embarrassed. And and so yes, I've always felt that like I'm just not good enough as a mother. But like I think being out of it, I try and make an effort, but sometimes it's so isolated or it feels time constricted because I'm not home. So I'm like, okay, well, I am home now, so I have to do this, even if I'm not like in the headspace or like sometimes work's really tough. Like I see families that have had a really tough experience and like I try not to absorb their emotions, but sometimes you just need to like, go for a walk or do some exercise or do something to like manage those emotions, or like, managing people can be tough. They have their own things going on and you're trying to really help and support and grow them, and like trying not to take all that on. But then I go home and I'm trying to be present and I know I'm not present, and like that sick feeling of like, I should do better is really hard. And I know this sounds like I'm beating myself up on a podcast now.
Which you are.
Yeah. And like the rationale of like, I know it's not true. We do so much together and we do a lot, but it's that, which is probably why I've been much less present in sharing my life on Instagram this year, because I've been trying to be more present in the moment and leaving the phone at home, because work just keeps coming all the time, whether it be from social media or emails or phone calls. And so like I've really stepped back from sharing. And because somebody said to me, like, I look up to you as a parent, and I'm like, I am not on social media to give parenting advice. Like, that is not my remit. That is not my scope. Like, I'm doing the best that I can. And that makes me really, I'm nervous because that's not my area of expertise, and I would not give advice around parenting. So like between that and trying to be more present, like I have shared, I guess, less this year around that sort of stuff.
Do you think though that people can look up to you as a parent, not necessarily around like the techniques or the strategies, but just your intent?
Maybe.
To be present when you can, and to, I think it's a tricky one. As women in this generation, I think we are eternal like people pleasers with unrelenting high standards, right? Like that's how you got to this position in work. Like it's probably served you in some ways. You are a successful person career-wise, but it's also like living with extraordinarily high standards, and that sense of kind of guilt when you don't meet them like can be quite debilitating. And like I would say, like this is in my conclusion, but I put you like as a guiding light in that parenting space, because I do think you bring a sense of normalcy and warmth and like intent. I think you have the most beautiful intent as a parent, and that is inspiring to people. Like you make a real effort to get outside, to share these messages, to spend time with your kids. I do think that is like that's why you have so many people who love you and want to see you and follow you and do all of those things.
Really good to make me cry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like, I don't know, that I think that perfect parent thing bites us every time, doesn't it? Even when logically you can be like, okay, I know I don't have to be there. You're still like underneath it all, don't really believe that.
Yeah, it's that I understand it, but I don't believe it.
Yeah.
And everyone says it gets easier as they get older, which I don't know if I agree with. I think it just changes. Yeah. But then like to flip the coin, like Ben and I have done this swap, and he is now at home and he's really good at it. But like deep down, like I feel this immense pressure for the business to work. And you know how hard business is at the moment. And if you look at Western Kids, it is beautiful, and we're in a beautiful, but like it's hard. Business is hard. Like success isn't always how you measure success in like, success is measured different for everyone, and nobody goes into pediatrics to make money. People go into pediatrics to help people. Like, if profit and purpose are nice, but like there's this immense pressure that it has to work because he's given up his entire career so that I can do what I love and make a difference. And like he's like, no, Nick, like, there's all these other reasons. Anyway, that's just my
which again, but don't believe, right?
Yeah. And so, and so that's like I feel lots of compassion for other parents out there that know that, you know these things, but you don't believe them because it's just your own narrative in your head that you just
definitely is. Yeah. And I think like even what you've said there gives me compassion. I get frustrated with my husband when he comes home after being like away for work particularly and is not present when he gets back sometimes, and that like infuriates me because I'm like, you haven't been here, you need to be present and make the most of it. But like real life is hard, right? Like it isn't just flicking a switch, and I would do better to be more compassionate in those circumstances. What's that role been like? So when you've kind of flipped, how do you go with having been the parent that is home more? Because I know you were still working part-time previously. Like how do you go with that mental load shift, but that also that like frustration that a lot of us feel for partners who are working more or out of the home more? Like does your experience change because you've been on the other side?
Yeah. I think that it has like Ben and I both now really feel the other person's shoes. So like he would come home from work and exactly the same, like just want to like be on his phone and zone out because like, and I'll be like, the baby, take the baby.
Take the
I just
baby.
need 10 minutes. So I just need to go outside and scream. Or like, you know, just because they're like, when you're like co-regulating for them all the time, like it builds up. You just need to like release that stress or whatever it is, to release that pent up feeling. And like you've had adult relationships all day, like I need to talk to somebody. And like having the switch, like we're both empathetic, like I can feel how hard he works to keep, like to know what he puts out at home. Like I know what happens behind the scenes because I never had that output that he has. And he's like, if you've had a hard day, just stop for half an hour and like decompress. And so like it's okay. But like, you know, that ebbs and flows, like we become less patient. You know, you're like patient, if your tank is running low, like it's harder to be like that. But like I know that he needs me to come home and tag him for a bit, and I do bedtime and like all of those things. So like it's kind of helped in that sense of understanding each other and understanding and prioritizing each other's needs, which has been really, it's a much more healthy space for us to be in. But like it's not always perfect. Like we're not like
still a lot,
perfect.
isn't it?
Yeah. Like it's not like I come home and like, hello, I'm here, I'm still alive.
Go and have a lie down, honey. I'll take this.
Yeah. And so like, and you know, like I'll be like, I'll do this craft thing. And he's like, just freaking mop the floors, and you're like putting glue everywhere. And so like, oh, sorry, like didn't realize. Like the elf came last night and brought sand in and made a snow angel in the sand because I woke up at 1 a.m. thinking, shit, I gotta move the elf, but I couldn't think of anything else. And like I was like, I'm sorry, I was like, I'll clean it up. But yeah, so like it's not perfect, but there's just more compassion for each other and understanding and that willingness to just give a little bit more if the other one's feeling a little bit low. So it's good. It's good in that respect.
That's really powerful.
All
right. Where am I at? Okay. So I already like read my conclusion to you before, so that's gonna like throw me. But I've got a couple of very quick fire questions to ask you at the end. Maybe I'll go from then. What is the weirdest thing you have ever eaten?
Well, when I was 16, I don't know why. My mum let me backpack around Japan with a boy from my Japanese class for the just summer school holidays. And I had lots of weird things, but we went to the sushi train and I thought I was eating bacon on rice, but it was like raw bacon with wasabi underneath it. And so I had like, oh, this is delicious, all in the mouth, like vomited all over the sushi train. So that was probably, for me, the weirdest thing that I've eaten.
So you as a like drinking all the milk after a little bit of like Keen's mustard.
I know. That's me. I'm not very good with spice still. But yeah, anyway, my poor little taste buds aren't grown up yet for spice.
Still time. You got ages. And what is for dinner tonight at your house, or are you unaware? Will it just be on the table when you get home?
No, I am aware because Ben has been eyeing off the Gosney pizza, but not the big one, but like a small portable one for ages. So he's bought one of those as his Christmas present. And so today is like our inaugural pizza night. So he spent yesterday making dough from scratch. And so we're pizzaing, so the kids will get to make their own toppings and stuff tonight. So I'm finishing work early and we're going home to make pizzas.
Oh, I love that. Sorry.
Yeah. Definitely not my remit, but I'm here to do my toppings. But I'll probably do the sauce in the wrong order. I get yelled at, but it's okay.
Compassion. Thank you so much for being here and for being so thoughtful and vulnerable and real. I honestly think those qualities in you are well recognized by everyone around you. And I do think you are a guiding light in this space. So please don't stop sharing with us all. Tell me where the people can find you if they want more.
Okay, so you can find me at Western Kids Health. That's my little allied health clinic in Perth. Or if you're on Instagram, you can find me at Nicole_Kids Physio. So that's me. It's where I share all the.
I forgot to mention the baby and toddler academy.
Oh yeah, so I like Kyla has her wonderful mealtimes to support your meal times and not being stressful, we have the baby and toddler play academies, which is heavily around connection. My ethos, and this is where Kyla and I share a lot of our philosophy, is ethos of connection before correction. So like what is happening and how we can focus on all the good stuff, especially around baby development in the early days when, you know, there's a lot of focus on, are they rolling? Are they crawling? Or should I do this? Or should I make them crawl? Or should I teach them how to walk? And so like it's a real containing, beautiful space that's more about play and opportunity and connection. So that's my Baby Play Academy. So yeah, come find me. You can Google it. It will be there when you Google. And my bow in this camera is very interesting.
I love it.
But yeah, so come and find me there. And if you need any help with baby development, that's where I am.
Here's your girl. Thanks, Nick.
That's okay. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye. A huge thanks for tuning in and listening to my podcast. This is all brand new for me, so I'd love to hear your feedback. Give me a review or send me a DM. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And above all, I'd really love you to hit that subscribe button to keep listening. Thanks.